Snowflakes clung to Lena's hair, sliding down her cheeks like icy tears. She sat curled on the porch in only a thin sweater, her lips trembling, her body shaking in the 32-degree night. Just a few feet away, through the glowing window, her husband's family raised champagne glasses, their laughter spilling into the warmth of the fire. The warmth belonged to them. The cold was for her. I stormed forward, pulled her into my arms, and felt her bones through her frozen skin. That was the moment I realized. This wasn't just one cruel night. This was everything she had been enduring in silence. Her whisper. Mom? Wasn't guilt. It was survival. And as my rage hardened into resolve, I knew. No more silence. Tonight, everything would change. My name is Diana Brooks. For most of my life, I've been a taekwondo instructor in Seattle. Those were the values I drilled into my students. But behind my strength lies a scar I rarely speak of. Years ago, I lost my sister to domestic violence. The system failed her, and so did everyone who should have protected her. She died crying in a kitchen while her husband screamed in the next room. That memory never left me, and I swore I would never let history repeat itself. Not if I had the power to stop it. So when Lena married Evan Hale, I prayed that my only daughter had escaped that fate. The Hale family looked perfect on the outside. Wealthy, respected, a mansion lit like a holiday postcard. But their smiles were too polished, their eyes too cold. Something always felt wrong. I tried to believe her when she said she was happy, that Evan was charming, that his family would come to love her. But every phone call told me otherwise. Her laughter was strained, her words too careful. "Just tired, Mom," she'd say. I knew better. That night, my suspicion turned into certainty. My phone buzzed. It was Jack Carter, one of my former students, now a state trooper. His voice was low, urgent. "Mrs. Brooks," he said. "I shouldn't even be calling, but Lena isn't safe there." My hand tightened around the phone. "What do you mean, Jack? What have you seen?" "I can't talk long," he whispered, "but I left something for you." At the diner across from their street, booth 6 under the napkin holder. Then the line went dead. I crossed the road, my boots crunching on the frozen ground. Inside the diner, I slid into booth 6 and found it, a folded photograph. Blurry, grainy, but unmistakable. It showed Lena on that very porch, wrapped in the same thin sweater, her arms hugging herself against the cold. Behind her, through the glowing window, the Hale family sat at the fire, smiling, drinking, toasting. My hands trembled as I tucked the photo into my pocket. Jack hadn't made a mistake, and when I walked back out into the night, I already knew what I was about to face, and then I heard it. A broken sob, almost swallowed by laughter inside. I turned my head, and there she was, my daughter, my Lena. Alone in the snow, lips blue, shoulders hunched as though she was the one who deserved the cold. I pulled her close, my heart shattering with every shiver that rattled her body. "You don't have to be alone anymore," I whispered. Behind us, the firelight flickered across the window. Their glasses clinked louder. The contrast burned into me. Warmth for them, suffering for her. This was the night I would not stay silent. Before we dive deeper into this dramatic story, make sure you subscribe to Twist Stories and turn on the notification bell. Here, you will always find stories of sacrifice, betrayal, and the twists that no one saw coming. Where are you watching from? Leave a comment below. Who knows, the next story might just echo your own experience. They say you can tell the temperature of a family not by the thermostat, but by who gets to sit closest to the fire. By that measure, the Hales were tropical. Lena was always placed at the far edge of the couch, her chair and photographs half-shadowed, her smiles cropped at the margins. A week passed after that Christmas Eve. My apartment had become a convalescent ward for a wounded heart. Lena slept long hours, woke in tears she couldn't explain, and flinched when the phone buzzed. She wouldn't answer Evan's calls, though the voicemail notifications stacked like bad debts. Each message had a new flavor, soft at first, then sarcastic, then threatening. "Come home," he said once. "You're embarrassing me." Embarrassing, like grief is a stain on his shirt. Judith dropped off a parcel, a casserole wrapped in foil, left on the doorstep like charity to a beggar. I didn't touch it. Neither did Lena. Some food tastes of poison even before you bite. The second week, papers arrived, a formal notice of separation already bearing Charles Hale's legal letterhead, property lists, visitation schedules, and in one bold paragraph, allegations of instability, phrases like unfit, paranoid, histrionic, words meant to bruise on contact. Lena folded the papers twice, set them on the counter, and whispered, "They want me erased." I touched her shoulder. "That's the only thing they can't have," I said. When the court summons came, the Hales made sure it coincided with their annual foundation banquet, the kind of event where men wear cufflinks heavier than their promises. Evan insisted Lena attend for appearances. She didn't want to. But trauma makes hostages out of wives. I walked her into that ballroom myself. Chandeliers dangled like frozen teardrops. The air smelled of lilies and money. Lena in her navy dress looked like courage wrapped in trembling. The conversation swirled, charities, golf scores, and whispered comments about Lena's episodes. Bree leaned in with a smile bright enough to blind. "It must be exhausting for Aunt Judith managing your moods," she said. "Sugar over acid." Judith glided over, carrying a tray of champagne like a crown. "Smile for the cameras, darling," she instructed Lena. "This family doesn't need another scandal." Especially not tonight, I nearly spoke. But Lena's hand gripped mine under the table. A signal. Wait. Endure. Document. She was learning. Then Evan took the microphone. He thanked his parents for their endless wisdom and called Lena the emotional heart of our family. A line rehearsed for donors, a role she was never allowed to play at home. Cameras flashed. Lena smiled the way hostages smile with barrels at their backs. I whispered to her, "Your heart deserves better lighting." She squeezed my hand so hard I felt the years she'd lost inside it. After the banquet, the Hale lawyers pressed harder. They argued Lena had invented abuse. They produced witnesses, maids, friends, even a former coworker, each coached to say Lena liked drama. It was a symphony of denial orchestrated by Charles's influence. But Jack, steadfast as ever, delivered something better, a video file. He'd secured the doorbell footage from Christmas Eve, the one of Lena left shivering outside while the Hales clinked glasses. It wasn't perfect quality, but truth doesn't need polish. "Will they allow it in court?" I asked. Jack shook his head. "Chain of custody's messy. They'll call it inadmissible." "Then why bother?" I asked. "Because the world has courts too," he said, "not just the building downtown." That seed planted itself deep. The courthouse smelled of varnish and fear. On one side, the Hales, all press suits and practiced indignation. On ours, Lena, fragile but unbroken, me, and a lawyer who worked more for dignity than dollars. The Hale attorney painted Lena as unstable. "4 miscarriages," he said, pacing. "Tragic, yes, but does it justify her erratic behavior? Her paranoia?" Evan, stood and testified. "She isolates. She lashes out. She refuses to get help." He looked at the jury as if rehearsed in mirrors. Then came the photo, a doctored image of Lena laughing at the banquet, digitally brightened to erase the tremor in her hands. "Does this look like a woman abused?" the attorney asked. Lena's lips parted, but no words came. I wanted to leap, to shout, but our lawyer touched my arm. "Let the storm pass, then strike." When our turn came, we offered medical records, texts of derision from Evan, and my testimony. But the judge dismissed the doorbell video. "Illegally obtained," he ruled. The gavel struck like winter on bone. Verdict: assets divided, majority leaning Hale. Allegations of abuse? Unsubstantiated. Lena shrank. The gallery whispered. The Hales smirked. Justice felt like a stage play where we'd been given the wrong lines. I stood, fury boiling, but then Lena whispered, not to the court, not to Evan, but to me. Don't lose yourself, Mom. I've lost enough. That whisper was heavier than any gavel. After the trial, the Hales celebrated at their estate. Photos leaked to social media, champagne towers, captions about family triumph. They thought the story had ended, but Jack's words echoed. The world has courts too. The video surfaced online, not through us, but through someone anonymous. Lena on the porch, the firelight mocking behind her, Judith's voice faint through the door. Consequences. It spread. Within days, hashtags swarmed. Hashtag justice for Lena. Hashtag cold as the Hales. News anchors debated. Talk shows dissected. Businesses once eager to donate now canceled partnerships. The Hale name, once a shield, became a punchline. If you've ever watched someone twist your pain into their power, you know this hollow fury. And if you've ever longed for the world to see the truth without you screaming it, you know the relief Lena felt as comments flooded in. We believe you. You are not alone. What about you? If you'd seen that verdict, would you have given up or held your breath, waiting for the tide to turn? At night, in my apartment, Lena scrolled through messages. Strangers calling her brave, women sharing their own nights in the cold. She cried, not because it hurt, but because it healed. I brewed tea, set it before her. They took the house, I said, but they can't take the story. Lena looked at me, eyes steadier than before. Maybe the story is what saves. The snow outside melted to slush, but something in her voice sounded like spring. Spring edged into Boise with reluctant sunlight. Lena had begun to stitch herself back into daily life. Short walks, small meals, fragments of laughter she didn't trust yet. But the Hales weren't finished. Power rarely leaves quietly. One morning, a thick envelope arrived. Inside was a petition from the Hale legal team, a motion to declare Lena mentally incompetent. The words leapt from the page: inability to manage finances, unfit to care for herself, history of instability. They wanted guardianship. They wanted ownership of her life. Lena read it once, twice, then pushed it across the table to me. Her voice cracked. They don't just want to erase me, Mom. They want to rewrite me. I felt the old fire in my chest, the same one that once rose when a student faced bullies. But this was no sparring mat. This was blood sport wrapped in law. Jack arrived that evening with a folder under his arm. They're overreaching, he said, dropping it on the table. And I've been digging. Inside were records, financial transfers, hidden accounts, proof that Charles Hale had siphoned charity funds into personal trusts. Paper trails don't lie. They whisper patiently until someone listens. Lena's eyes widened. If this comes out, Jack cut her off gently, it's not about revenge. It's about leverage, about balance. Meanwhile, the community tide hadn't ebbed. The video of Lena outside the door kept resurfacing, stitched into TikToks, analyzed on podcasts. The Hales attempted damage control, press statements about misunderstandings, glossy photos of Judith ladling soup at a charity kitchen. But the public has a nose for sincerity, and this smelled of bleach over blood. Neighbors who once envied the Hale estate now whispered in grocery aisles. Church pews grew emptier around their rows. Even their longtime friends offered only cautious nods. Reputation is glass. Once cracked, no polish restores it. Still, in the courtroom, they strutted. Money buys lawyers who turn whispers into daggers. At the hearing, their attorney declared, Mrs. Lena Hale is incapable of managing her affairs. Her emotional volatility and history of medical issues necessitate family oversight. For her own good, Lena stood, trembling but upright. For my own good, you locked me outside on Christmas Eve. You called my grief laziness. If that is your definition of family oversight, then I choose solitude over your sanctuary." Gasps rippled through the gallery. It wasn't a victory, but it was a voice reclaimed. That night, Lena confessed something she hadn't told me before. "When I miscarried the second time," she whispered, "Evan said maybe it was nature's way of correcting a mistake." He laughed. "Mom," he laughed. I closed my eyes, steadying the fury. "And you carried that alone?" "I thought silence was strength," she admitted. "No," I said, brushing her hair back like when she was a girl. "Silence is their weapon. Truth is yours." We began to plan, not with fists, not with vengeance, but with documentation. Dates, receipts, bruises photographed, messages archived. Jack guided us. Careful, meticulous. Every page was a brick in a wall against their narrative. But the most damning piece wasn't paper. It was a voice. One evening, Bree called Lena by mistake. She thought she was leaving a message for Evan. Her words spilled with venom. "If we can get her committed, the trust is ours. Dad says judges eat from his hand. She's as good as gone." Lena played the voicemail twice, then a third time, her face pale but resolute. "This is the sound of them hanging themselves," she said. The next hearing loomed, and tension hummed like wires in a storm. The Hales walked in confident, pearls and pressed suits gleaming. We carried a single USB drive. The judge called order. Their attorney recited the same lines, unstable, incapable, dangerous to herself. Then our lawyer stood. "Your Honor, we request permission to submit an audio file, recently obtained." Charles Hale rose, objecting instantly. "Inadmissible! Manipulated!" The judge held up a hand. "We'll hear it." The courtroom hushed. Bree's voice filled the speakers, dripping with entitlement. "If we can get her committed, the trust is ours." The silence afterward was not quiet. It throbbed. The gallery shifted. Reporters scribbled like frantic historians. For the first time, the Hales looked rattled. The judge leaned forward. "This does not prove abuse, but it does cast doubt on the petition for incompetence. Motion denied, a gavel fell. For us, it was thunder clearing the sky. If you've ever been cornered, told you were weak or crazy just because you grieved too loudly, then you know the tremor in Lena's hands that day. Let me ask you, if you uncovered a voicemail like that, would you blast it into the world immediately or hold it like a secret dagger for the right moment? That evening, back at my apartment, Lena finally exhaled a laugh, short, shaky, but real. "They lost," she said. "No," I corrected gently. "They showed themselves." "That's worse." The kettle whistled. Outside, spring rain tapped the windows. Inside, Lena cupped her tea like a fragile but living thing. For the first time in years, she didn't look like a prisoner. She looked like someone writing the prologue of her own book. Summer came heavy and bright, the kind of season when Boise yards filled with laughter, sprinklers, and barbecues, except at the Hale estate. Their gates still gleamed, but inside, the silence was a kind of rot. Charles faced quiet investigations over the siphoned charity funds. Judith's name no longer appeared on gala committees. Bree stopped posting glamorous dinners online. When she did, comments flooded with reminders of that voicemail. Evan grew restless. One evening, Lena received an email. Short. Venomous. "You think you've won? You'll crawl back when no one else will have you." She read it aloud at our kitchen table, her voice flat. Then she deleted it. "I don't need to answer," she said, surprising even herself. "Every word he writes now is proof I was right to leave." I looked at her, proud and aching. It takes years to unlearn chains. But she was cutting links one by one. If the courts moved slow, the community did not. The leaked video of Lena outside in the snow had been shared millions of times. But it was Jack who quietly dropped another stone into the pond, scanned documents showing Charles's misuse of non-profit funds. They surfaced on local blogs, then regional news. Soon, reporters camped outside the Hale gates. "Charity for veterans funneled into private accounts," headlines screamed. Charles gave one brittle interview, insisting it was an accounting oversight. The public didn't buy it. Donors pulled support. Former allies ghosted his calls. Justice rarely looks like a single hammer blow. More often, it's termites gnawing quietly until the proud facade collapses. Meanwhile, Lena began to speak. At first, only in small circles, support groups for women recovering from emotional abuse. She sat with strangers who cried into tissues, then raised her own voice. "I was locked outside by the people who said they loved me, but I am still here." Her words spread. Invitations followed, from podcasts, local radio, even a town hall. Each time her voice steadied, gained texture. "You know what I realized?" she told me one night, sitting on our fire escape under July stars. "They built their lives on silencing me. Every sentence I speak is revenge enough." I squeezed her hand. "And it's healing, too." By autumn, the Hales were cornered. Charles stepped down from his foundation under threat of indictment. Judith avoided public appearances altogether. Bree, once the golden daughter, was caught in her own scandal, exposed for doctoring resumes to land board positions. And Evan? He drowned himself in bitterness. His law firm asked him to take an indefinite leave. His friends thinned out. Eventually, even the tabloids stopped calling. The mighty don't fall in cinematic crashes. They erode piece by piece until even their reflections don't recognize them. Thanksgiving that year was nothing grand. Just me, Lena, and Jack around my small table. A modest turkey, mashed potatoes, laughter that came easier. Jack raised his glass. "To new beginnings." Lena smiled, not wide, but real. "And to endings that needed to happen." We clinked glasses. Later that night, Lena unwrapped a small gift from Jack, a delicate silver bracelet engraved with the word, "enough." She traced it with her finger. "For so long, I thought I wasn't. Now I know I am." On Christmas Eve, the anniversary, I found Lena standing by the window. Snow fell soft against the glass. She was wrapped in a red sweater, not shivering, not hiding. "Do you ever want to go back there?" I asked quietly. She shook her head. "The house isn't home. This," she gestured to our humble apartment filled with warm light, "this is home, not walls. People outside, children laughed in the snow. Inside, Lena laughed with them, free at last from the prison of that gilded mansion. Maybe you've known a Hale family in your life. People who wear respectability like a mask while crushing others behind closed doors. If you were in Lena's shoes, would you have stood in court and read those words aloud? Or would you have let silence protect you? Tell me in the comments. Your stories matter here. Spring came again, softer this time. The air smelled of rain on pavement, tulips pressing through the soil, and Lena, my daughter, walked lighter. She had started taking taekwondo classes at the community center, coached by Jack on the weekends. Every kick she threw was a rejection of the old Lena who had been told she was weak, broken, less than. One morning, she stood in front of the mirror, tying her belt. "I used to believe strength meant never breaking," she whispered. "Now I think it means breaking and still choosing to stand back up." I tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. "That's the truest strength there is." On Easter, we took a walk through the neighborhood. Lena wore a pale blue coat, her hair brushed neatly back, a smile softening her features. Children ran with baskets, laughter echoing. "Last year," she said, "I thought my life was over, that nothing waited for me but cold porches and locked doors." "And this year?" I asked. She looked at me, eyes shining. "This year, I think about what I want to build, not what I've lost." We stopped by a small churchyard where daffodils bloomed. She left a tiny note under a stone. I peeked after she walked away. 4 words. "I forgive myself now." The Hales never went to prison, though whispers of charges still circled. But in truth, they were already serving their sentence. The society they once ruled had turned away. Their wealth couldn't buy respect, nor erase the videos etched in public memory. I used to fantasize about revenge, about seeing them handcuffed, disgraced. But watching Lena laugh again, I realized their collapse wasn't the point. Her healing was. As one old proverb goes, the axe forgets, the tree remembers. The Hales might forget their cruelty, but Lena remembers, and she has turned that scar into armor. That night, back at our apartment, Lena hung Jack's little gift by the window, a keychain shaped like a taekwondo uniform. Snow fell again faintly, just as it had the night she was abandoned. But now, the scene was different. The light in our home glowed warm. Laughter floated from the kitchen. Lena stood tall, shoulders back, breathing deep. She was no longer the woman shivering on a porch. She was a survivor, a fighter, a daughter reclaimed by love. And as I watched her, one thought settled in my heart. Money can buy silence in courtrooms, but it cannot purchase dignity, nor erase the truth. To anyone listening now, justice doesn't always come in gavels or verdicts. Sometimes it comes in the simple act of reclaiming your voice. Respect is not inherited by blood or bought with wealth. It is earned through love, kindness, and the courage to say enough. If you've been silenced in your family, please know, you are not alone. There is a community here that sees you, hears you. So I ask you, have you ever witnessed a family injustice like Lena's? If you were in her place, standing in that courtroom, what would you have done? Share your story in the comments. Let this be more than just a channel. Let it be a circle of voices refusing to stay quiet. And if this story touched something in you, leave a message for yourself in the comments, a reminder of your own strength. Don't forget to subscribe to Twist Stories and ring the bell icon. Here, you'll always find tales of sacrifice, betrayal, and the twists that set things right again. Because in the end, no one should suffer in silence. Together, we turn pain into power and betrayal into new beginnings. Ooh.